Hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about punctuation, which of course is everybody's most favorite, exciting topic. But it will get you some points in the SAT, even if those things I said sound a bit facetious. So I figured both of these questions right here in a row, 13 and 14, these were both good opportunities to talk about punctuation. And since they're right next to each other, I figured I'd give you 2 for 1 here. So this first one has two elements to it. It's about uh, commas. Right? We have commas after painter or not. In C and D, we don't have commas after painter. And then we have this apostrophe S as well as a comma. So we have apostrophe S's, I guess, in each of these. So it's really just about the commas, it seems like, since we have commas after the S in Seurat's in 2 of our options. So a couple things to keep in mind with commas. Most important one is that less is more. Less is more. Why, you might ask? Well, it's because the SAT likes to play with expectations. It's because high school students tend to use lots of commas because as we start talking about more complicated, advanced ideas, oftentimes sentences get longer, more complex, and therefore more commas are necessary. We're also, in high school starting to read some older texts from the 1800s and even 1700s, and these old passages tend to have more commas in them. So the SAT knows that you love commas. You love commas. Maybe it's apostrophe S commas. Probably not. You love commas, and so they know that they can get people to make mistakes by just throwing extra commas in here. The question becomes, do we need these commas? This is really your sort of baseline for comma questions. We have this answer choice D, and you just try it out. I couldn't wait to. What I'm going to do when I try this out is I'm going to read the sentence, but I'm going to emphasize a lack of pauses, and then I'm going to emphasize the pauses that we have as options in the other answer choices. Okay, so here goes answer choice D, no pauses. I couldn't wait to view painter George Seurat's 10-foot wide a Sunday afternoon. It sounds fine. I could try out some other options. Like A, I couldn't wait to view painter George Seurat. Oh, let me try that again. I couldn't wait to view painter George Seurat's 10-foot wide. That sounds awkward when I overemphasize the pauses. Also, answer choice B, I couldn't wait to view painter George Seurat's 10-foot. Well, that's a little bit better. There's no comma after Seurat's, but it does feel like that's a little bit unnecessary, that pause. And we just talked about that same pause here. So I think for all those reasons, I'd probably cross all 3 of these out and just pick D. Now, we could talk more technically about why D is the best answer. And we'll maybe talk about what kind of a function commas like this could serve. The problem with commas is that they can serve multiple functions. But if you agree that the subject of the sentence is I, and the verb is something like couldn't wait to view, something like that. We don't have to get overly technical about what constitutes a verb and what doesn't, but I followed by some action, couldn't wait to view. What couldn't this person wait to view? It's the painting, right? And here's the painting, at the title of the painting in its full size. Like, that's what this person couldn't wait to view. So, a couple rules. The first one is you can never have a single comma between this information and what follows. Right? It's the simplest part of the sentence really can't be broken up with a comma. It can be broken up with extra information. So perhaps since we have these 2 commas, we could say, well, is this extra information? And you could make a case that his name is not that important. Except if you cross off the extra information, that is the stuff in between commas, if you cross it off, and read what's on either side of it without reading this person's name. It sounds a little funny. I couldn't wait to view painter 10-foot wide. Well, that's definitely wrong, right? So if we can't have a single comma between "I couldn't wait to view" and the painting, if we can't have a single comma between those things, and we can't eliminate this guy's name without it seeming quite strange, um, I think it would be fair to say that D is our best answer. The commas are quite complicated. Feel free to throw us some examples of comma questions that you think are more challenging than this. We'd be happy to help out. But in the meantime, let's move on to number 14, because this question has really three, maybe even four, I suppose, punctuation marks. We have the semicolon, we have the colon, we have a comma, and then we have the apostrophe for S. So let's first deal with the apostrophe for its, because this seems to confuse folks. But its, I-T-S, is the possessive form of its. Possessive, something that belongs to it. Possessive. Hope that's how you spell possessive. And IT apostrophe S means it is. The way that I remember this is that it is two words. And therefore, it would seem kind of funny to take those two words and smash them together into ITS with no punctuation. ITS with no punctuation, the possessive form of it, is just one word. So there's no need to separate those pieces, whereas the it is, of course, is two words. And therefore, if we're going to smash them together, we've at least got to use this apostrophe to let us know it's a contraction. So that's how I remember that. And right there, we can get rid of answer choice D and A, because what the sentence says is that my favorite exhibit at the museum was one of, not it is tiniest, but one of the tiniest in the museum. It is taking the place of the museum, and we're saying that this room belongs to the museum, this tiny room, right? So we can say that it's down to B and C, and I won't trouble you with more discussion of the comma here. Suffice to say that when you're dealing with a comma, a semicolon, and a colon, it makes more sense to focus on the semicolon and the colon. So let's talk about those, because that's the only difference between B and C. For a semicolon, we need full sentences, independent clauses. IC for independent clauses on both sides. So, of course, that's not going on here. We just have the Thorn miniature rooms and a period. That's not a full sentence, it's just a noun. Right? So that means that by process of elimination, you could just pick C. But let's talk about why C works. Here's the rules with colons. Most people don't know this. Most people that are taking the SAT at least don't know this. Most people think that what comes after a colon is a list. It's not necessarily true. Here's what has to come after. With a colon, you need a full sentence first, and you can have either another full sentence if you want, or a dependent clause, which is just really anything else. Now, you could have a list, or you could have just a single thing, the Thornton miniature rooms. The other thing to remember about a colon is that a colon can typically be replaced by phrases like such as, for example, to elaborate, for instance, anything like that. And not to say that you would literally remove the colon and just put these words in. In most cases, that might be fine. Maybe you'd use a comma before or something. But the thing is, when you're reading and you're trying to figure out, does this colon make sense? See if you can put a phrase like this in the place of the colon and have the sentence make sense. Another really good one is the word namely. Namely is great for this. So, it took me by surprise then when my favorite exhibit at the museum was one of its tiniest, namely the Thornton miniature rooms. So that works perfectly. Hope this video has helped you understand a little bit about strategy. Less is more with commas. I hope it's taught you a little bit about possession with the its and its. I hope it's taught you a little something about semicolons and colons. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us in any way. YouTube comments, Skype. just yelling from the rooftops, please help me. Whatever works. Get in touch, and we'll be happy to help you in any way we can. Take care.